Hi folks, this video is about installing the dashboard assembly in your Jaguar XK120 fixed head coupe. And if you're doing this for the final time, hopefully your car is painted already, because you can't get at some of this stuff underneath after the dashboard is installed, notably on this side. So the wiper wheel houses are installed. You've got your rubber installed, and if this was for the last time, your windshield washers would be installed. This car is not painted yet. This is just a test fit up, which is also a good idea if you have that opportunity. The vents are hanging loosely at both sides, and they are attached to the demister trunking, and those are installed as the dashboard goes together. They're not installed first, so that's important to note. The oil pressure water temperature gauge is all hooked up, and it has been run. The engine has been run, and this fitting has been tested to make sure it's not leaking. The reason for that is this is all rather difficult to get at after things are more together. And this bracket here for the map drawer is also installed, and it's through bolted with these two through bolts. So you can just barely sneak your finger around to get the nut on the back side of those, and that's all tight. The entire dashboard is wired, and everything has been tested electrically to make sure it works. Both of the cables, the speedometer and the tachometer cables, are in place, ready to be installed. This wire here is not connected, but once the dashboard is up, it'll go to the heater blower, and this is just hanging here loosely. This will go to the high beam indicator switch. So once you've got everything prepped here, ready to go, the next step is to install the main piece that goes across with both sides on, at the same time as this main fascia is installed, the gauge fascia, and it's all basically held together by 4 screws that screw into the fascia panel itself on either side, and those should be threaded fittings. I have seen these as studs occasionally, which is might actually make this whole process a little easier if these were studs. I'm not sure. I've never installed them with studs before. Okay, let's go to the next step. Alright, so here's the rest of the dashboard, and this is how it's going to look as it goes together. This will just be lifted into the car as a unit. And you'll notice a couple things. First, the top is not installed, so that goes on afterwards. And the way that's attached is by screws that go up through the side here, and also it's held down by the rear view mirror in the center. But you don't want to put this on first. So this is all together and ready to go in. Next, I've installed the assembly that you just saw on the bench, and it's really just hanging here. It helps to have someone kind of stabilize it so it doesn't get damaged. And in order to keep it sort of in place, I've already installed the screws that hold the vents on, but it is very fragile. There's really nothing holding it in. So next is to install the fascia itself with the 4 threaded hex bolts. Alright, so the next step was to install the main fascia panel with the 4 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4 from the back side, and that can be rather a struggle because you need little hands and a lot of dexterity to get up there and get everything started, and things need to line up very well, to make things easier. And in this case, it helped an awful lot to have the windshield out. If the windshield is in, it's a bit more of a struggle because you're up underneath here trying to get these little bolts. But if things line up and you have patience, it can be done. So have hope. And then the oil pressure water temperature gauge was installed with these. It's like clamped in the same as the rest of the gauges, as you probably know. And it's really important to get that straight because I see a lot of cars where that is loose and you know it doesn't look straight, and that's really, it says to me that things are loose under the dash. You also need to really check to every single wire to make sure that in this whole process of installing the center fascia that you haven't dislodged any of these crazy screw terminals, which really aren't the greatest all of the time. And that is a real risk, especially down by the amp meter of, you know, melting and having fire and stuff, because those are unfused circuits originally. So you need to get in there with your hands and check everything. I mean, after you have this installed, as much as you can. If you have the windshield in, it's much more difficult, of course, but do check all of those wires. The ring terminal connectors, like this one on the wiper, they're a lot more robust. You know, they don't pull out. But do check everything. And of course, the speedometer's been hooked up. The speedometer and the tachometer has been hooked up. So now is just the time to power things up and make sure that all the electrical connections are still good. So I've done that and it looks good. And as a quick note, you know, these cars were sort of hand fit together. So literally no two of them are exactly the same. So even though you may have all original dashboard parts, all original parts, if you bolt them together and it's been a long time, stuff just may not line up quite correctly. I had to actually change the position of this vent. I had to drill new holes because this vent came from some different car and its holes were different than the one in this original. So these are two original parts. They didn't fit together. And in order to get the dash top, the vent to line up, I had to change the position of that. So things may not line up perfectly. I've just finished installing the dashboard and I'm very pleased. It's sort of nice looking. You'll notice that it has a sort of matte sheen to the finish, and I chose that on purpose. I've made a lot of these dashboards professionally and they've all gone out full gloss, and that's actually not to my liking. I like them sort of more original looking, you know, like this one. So a lot of this dashboard is original. The whole center part, the map drawer, original. The only parts I had to replace completely were the side pieces. And if you know 120s, you'll know that this is not original. You know what that's from? It's from a Jaguar Mark II. And it stops the drawer, I mean the glove box, very nicely at 90 degrees. Otherwise, it relies on the hinges to stop the glove box. And they get mangled. When someone puts weight on here, they get mangled. But this will hold some weight. You don't have to worry. Use a Mark II one. I think you could also use a XK140 one. You know, would fit right in there. But I didn't happen to have all the parts to do that, so I just grabbed a Mark II one. And up here, oh yeah, the mirrors. So this is a mirror that I bought years and years and years ago on eBay. And I think this is from a sedan or a very, very early production 120. Because as you can see, I've mounted it very far forward where it really generally isn't placed. But if you look at the prototype XK120 fixed head coupe pictures, so the very first car made, you'll notice that it has a mirror similar to this that's kind of canted back like that. But then after mounting this, I found a mirror on eBay quite inexpensively, in fact really inexpensively, which is the correct type, like the tiny little mirror. The only thing that's not right about it is it does not have the convex glass, and I'm pretty sure they had convex glass. So I'm not sure which mirror I'm going to use. I've just got them sitting up here, and it's sort of a delightful little dilemma. There's the ashtray, an original ashtray.